What's up, Wayne Barron here with DarkEffects.net, and we are inside of Adobe After Effects, and we're going to be doing this. As you can see, it sort of looks like the text is actually burning away, and so got sort of black areas. The white areas is fire, and the black areas is part of our text is actually burnt away. At least that's how I see it. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's go. First thing that we want to do before we do anything else is that we need to change this to 32. So hold down Alt key and click twice. We want it to be 32 in order for us to be able to do our high color. So we got to have it at 32. So the first thing I want to do here is create a new composition, and this one right here is going to be called Final Comp. Got to set it 1280 by 720 with 24 frames a second at 10 seconds for duration. Click OK. We want to add in a background, and we're using shortcut keys. So a new composition is Control N or Command N on a Mac, and for new layers is Control Y or Command Y on a Mac. So okay, let's this is going to be our background, and change this one to black. All the way down and click OK, then click OK again. Create a new composition, and then we want to do this one as emitter source. And all this looks good. Click OK, and now the first thing we want to do is add in text. Dark effects, and we've got a siren going in the background. Hope everybody is okay. We just moved to a new location, and this is probably the third siren in 2 days, so not too good. So let's go ahead and got that done. Let's get rid of our title action safe, and so the next thing we want to do is let's click here and go to effects, and then come down to noise and grain, and then to turbulent noise. We want to change basic all the way down to rocky, and then we want our contrast to be at 250, and then holding down the Alt key, let's click on our evolutions little stopwatch here, and let's type in time times 150. Okay, and that right there is going to actually make our burn effect a little bit more. So everything that is going to be black is going to be burned off. Okay, so now with this one, let's also come over here to effects, transition, linear wipe, and let's change this to -90. Okay, let's change this to 100, and then let's click stopwatch, and then come out here to 1 second, and then change this to 0. Okay, so we got all that taken care of. So next thing we want to do is come over here and get a new layer or a new solid, and then we want to bring this one to white, and then just white. Click OK, drag it down to the bottom, come over here to our track matte and click on none and change it to Luma Matte Dark Effects. Okay, now this right here is going to make it so that everything that is black will not emit any type of particles. Everything that is white will emit particles. So let's come over here to our final comp, scroll over to the beginning, take our emitter source, drop it on top of our background. Then let's come over here, not over here. Let's come down here, toggle switch, change our emitter source to a 3D layer. Let's go over here and let's add in a camera, 50mm. That's good. So now we'll be able to come out to there, and we can zoom around. So that's that right there will help us if we want to add in any other type of effects later on down the road that require a camera. We will have the camera there for it to use. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do here is that we want to go ahead and get a new layer, new solid, and we're going to name this particular main spark. And everything looks good. Click OK, come over here to effects, drop down to Trapcode and particular. First thing we want to do is come over here to emitter, change our emitter type from point to layer, and as you can see, our layer emitter is enabled. Let's click here and choose the first one, drop it down to emitter source. Over here on our particles per second, let's change this to 100,000, so that's 1 5 zeros, 1 1 2 3 4 5. Click OK. Now let's come down here to our particle, and our life is going to be 0.1. As you can see, it made it a little bit smaller, not as many. Okay, so now we're going to come over here to our physics and come down to air, and then we're going to change the following: 250, tab down to minus 125, tab down to minus 200. Okay, and now we are going to do our turbulence field, and then we're going to change the following. We're going to change our effect position right here to 10, and then drop down to our fade in time to 0.2. And now the next thing we want to do is come all the way down to the bottom, and we want to do our auxiliary system, and we want to enable this. So let's change it off to continuously, come all the way up to our particle, and our size, change that to 0. We want to cut it off because we don't want to see it while we're working with our auxiliary system. And so the next thing we want to do is we want to come over here to our life, and we want to change it to 0.3, and then our size is going to be changed to 1, and our opacity to 100, and then our particles per second, which is right here, we're going to change it to 50. Auxiliary physics, and then we want to change our wind effect to 100, and then our turbulence position to 200. Okay, and sort of gives it a little bit more cooler feel and effect to it. Okay, so now the next thing we want to do is we want to come to our color over life. Click here. We want to click on the second little button here, and that's going to reset everything to a black and white. Double click, bring it up. We want to change this to 2, 1.5, and then 1. Click OK, and then come over here to the next one, and then we want to change this one to 1, and then 0.23 and 0. And that right there is going to give it a higher color. As you can see, the color right here is just very vibrant, and it looks really, really cool. So that's basically what we're after. So let's come over here to our transfer mode. We want to change this to add, and then we want to come down, scroll down to our randomness. We want to change the following for our randomness. We want 100, 100, and 70. Okay, so now that's going to make it a little bit more random. So now let's come down here to the bottom, and we want to go to rendering, and then motion blur, and then we want to change this to on, and then change this to 60. And see, that's going to add just a little bit of blur into our effect here. So that right there will round out this part. So now we've got our second one. So what we're going to do is that we're going to duplicate this one. Control or Command D to duplicate it. Hit enter, and we want to rename this to Thick Fire. Or I'm sorry, let's change that to Thick Flames. That's better. Okay. Now the first thing we want to do here is that we want to come down to our physics, and we want to do our time factor, and we want to change that to 0.8, and then we want to come down to our air, and then our turbulence field to move with wind all the way down here. We want to change this to 150. And then let's come down to our auxiliary systems, and let's go ahead and solo this layer since this is all that we're working with. And so now what we want to do here is that we want to go to our opacity over life. I want to bring that about right up in there. Come over here to the top, and you can click on this. The more you click on it, as you can see, the more it's going to smooth it out. go ahead and click on it until it gets it almost down. That looks pretty good to me. So we got that taken care of. And now for our color Overlife, let's click on this one here. Open it up and let's do the following: 0.5, drop it down to 0.12 and 0. Click OK and drag this to about up in here. Okay, and as you can see, our particles just got just a little bit darker and not quite as vibrant as it was before, just slightly darker. Let's go to transfer mode to screen, and then let's come down a little bit more and let's change the following. Go up some. Okay, we're going to change this to 0.4, and then our emit probability right here, we're going to change this. Click there again, change it to 50. Had to get rid of my onboard mouse. I can't stand them mouse pads. So let's go to our particles per second, and let's change that to 10. And then our size, we want to change that to 3. And then we want to come down and we want to feather it out at 100. And then we come down here to our physics, and we want to change the following. Our wind effect, we want to change that to 60. Okay, and now the next thing we want to do is come down to our render for our motion blur, and we want to change our shutter angle to 1080. Okay, and that's going to make it sort of look like it's jumping out at you, almost like sparks just jumping out at you. Okay, now let's do our type. We're going to change this to subframe sample, and then our levels is going to be set at 24. Let's come over here to effects, to blur and sharpen, and CC vector blur. And let's do the following for here. Now let's do the amount at 15, and then do our ridge smoothness at 0.5. Okay, now let's come back over here and to our blur and sharpen. Let's go to fast blur, and let's change this to 4. And that right there would take care of that part. So now let's duplicate this once more. Command or Control D, and then hit enter. Particle sparks. Okay, so let's go ahead and solo it by itself. And let's go ahead and first thing we want to do is we want to come over here and delete these blurs because they are no longer needed. Let's bring this up, and let's come back down. Let's go ahead and change this back to linear and change this to 30. Okay, now let's come up to our auxiliary, and then let's change our emit probability to 10. And then our particles per second, we're going to change that to 15. We're going to leave our life seconds at 0.4. Then we're going to go down to our size, and we're going to change this to 1.5. Okay, now the next thing we want to do is come down to our physics, which is right here, and we want to change the wind effect to 300, and then the turbulence also to 300. Oops, sorry, sort of got a little lost. So let's come down here to our turbulence field, to our move with wind. Want to change this to 180. Okay, now let's come to our color over life. And what we want to do here is double click and change the following settings. 0.8314. Jump down to our G and go 0.302 and then 0.2607. Click OK, and now let's click there, double click, and then we want to type in the following is 0.4667. Come down to 0.1294 and then 0.7098. Click OK. So now we've got 3 swatches right here. Create a new composition, and we want to name this one smoke source and we're going to change this to 200, 200. Everything else is going to be left the same. Yeah, let's change this to white. Click OK. And then let's go ahead and bring this up to here. Click on a pen. Whoops. Let's bring in a solid. And this one right here. Actually, we're going to leave this one at white. Going to click OK. We're going to come over here to our composition, and we're going to change our composition one to black. Click OK. Click OK again. Now we got our solid. Okay, so now what I want to do here is just, we don't want it to be round, so you want to sort of give it as much of a smoke feel as you can, sort of like how flames sort of go up in the air. That's basically what we are after here. And so let's sort of give ourselves some sharp points, sort of like so. And that looks good. Just a wavy line. You don't want it to be perfectly straight, okay, or perfectly round, I should say. So that's what we want to do there. So now we want to come over here to Effects, Stylize, and then come to Roughen Edges. And now we want to change our border to 100. And let's tab down to our scale, and we want to change that to 550. Okay, and now holding down the Alt key, click on Offset Turbulence and bracket 0, comma, and type in time star minus 100. Okay, so that's changed that to a 0. So that's bracket 0, comma, time times minus 100 bracket. Okay, so basically that's what it's going to look like. That way it sort of gives it a, almost like it's fire. It's going up in the air. It's almost like a fire field. Okay, so now let's create a new solid. And we want this one to be white. And then click OK. Drop it down to the bottom. Come down here, switch it. And then come over here and choose Lumimat White Solid. And we're going to name this one Smoke. Okay, and so click there one more time, come over here to Effects, Blur and Sharpen, and choose Fast Blur, then change this to 25. Okay, and let's sort of that out. Yeah, looks good to me. Okay, so now let's come back over here to our final comp, scroll over, and then let's take our smoke source, drag it all the way down here to the bottom. Okay, and then we want to hide it. Okay, now come over here and we want to duplicate this one, drop it down to the bottom here, and then rename this one Particle Smoke. Okay, so now let's come back over here to our effects control, and then we want to do the following. First thing we want to do is we want to change this to 10,000, so that's 4 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4. That'll be 10,000. Okay, and so now let's go down to our physics. Move with wind down here to 150. Okay, and now let's go down to our auxiliary system. And let's change the following. Our emit probability is at 10. We're going to leave it there. And particles per second, we're going to change to 40. And our life is going to change to 1.2. And then our size is going to be 100. And wow, it got big. And then our opacity is going to be at 10. That'll bring it down a little bit. Okay, now let's come over here. Let's come up to our particle type and change sphere to sprite colorize. Let's come down here to texture, and let's come from none to smoke source. Okay, and there we go. One more thing up top. Almost forgot, time sampling. Want to change this to random loop and let it render. Now let's come down here. Sorry about all that. Okay, now we want to do our colorful life. Let's go ahead and reset this back and double click here and do the following settings. 0.4588. Tab down to the G and 0.0235. Next one, 0.7255. Click OK, and then for our next one, click here. That's really cool. Got a purple. Let's do 0.2196, 0.0902, and then 0.4118, and click OK. And so now it's a little bit more of a vibrant purple. Okay, so now next thing we want to do is that we want to come to our opacity overlife, and let's basically just like so, and let's come over here to our smooth, and let's smooth this joker out, and then that looks really good to me, so we're going to leave that at so. And so let's come down to our physics, and let's change our wind effect to 75, and then drop this down to 200. Last thing that we're going to do here is, so that's basically what that looks like right there. So now let's come over here and solo that. This is basically what it looks like. Okay, pretty cool. Alright, so now let's add layer, new, adjustment layer, and let's move this up to here, and let's choose glow. Click OK, and now let's come to effect, stylize, glow. Okay, let's change the following settings. Our threshold is 25, our radius is 40, and then our glow intensity is going to be 0.2. Let's come down here to our original colors and change that to A and B. Click on the first color, and let's change the following: 1, and then 0.9216, and then 0.6235. Click OK, and then come down to our next one. Let's do the same thing with this one, and we're going to do 1, and then 0.502, and then 0. Click OK. Alright, we're going to we're going to duplicate this one, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to change this to 30, and then our glow radius is going to be 350, and our glow intensity is going to be 0.1, and then we're going to go back to the original color for there. Now let's come over here to let's do a layer, new, adjustment layer. Let's go to effect, Trapcode, shine, and let's go ahead and rename this one to shine. Okay, let's come up here and we're going to move our source down. Whoops, try that again. Grab a hold of the, it's not letting me do it. It is not letting me do it. So there it goes. I'll make it work. For some reason it wouldn't let me grab a hold of that source point, and so whatever, anyway, we got it working. So now let's go and do our ray length, and now we're going to change that to a 0.4, and then we're going to come down to our colorize, and then we're going to change the first one here to 1. and then 0.9961, and then 0.549. Click OK, and then we're going to change our mode to screen. Our shine opacity, we're going to change this to 0.35. Click OK, and you can change this to whatever you want, depending on how much depth that you want, how much vibrant color that you want to come through on this. You just come through here. I mean, you can go up really bright if that's what you want, which I don't think it looks too good. Come all the way down here to 36, and it's, I didn't do it right. It's 35 point, not 0.35, what I was supposed to have done. So anyway, but yeah, that right there looks pretty good to me. So let's come over here, and I mean that's basically it. So yeah, I mean, as you can see, as the fire is burning, our text sparks are coming off from our text, and then we got our smoke right there in the background. And so that's basically it. I mean, it's I hope the lesson wasn't too long. So we can come over here and click here. Let's go ahead, and one other thing I want to add into here is let's change everything from no more to screen. So each one of these gets changed to screen. Well, I cannot take credit for all of this. I mean, I did not learn this on my own. To be honest with you, this is actually the first time that I've actually jumped into particular. Usually I mess around with form, doing sound effects and so forth, which I will be doing a lesson on that one later on in the near future. But right now I'm just enjoying particular so much, especially after learning how to do this. Now, if you want to learn how to use everything that I showed and learn what everything means, then I strongly suggest that you come over to redgiant.com/videos, Red Giant TV, and choose this very first video right here. That is what I used to learn how to do what I'm doing. But as you can see, they did it with a symbol, and I did mine with just a simple text. And so, but this is just it's a really cool way of adding in some really awesome effects to your projects. So anyway, Wayne Barron here, darkeffects.net, and yeah, look forward for a lot of really cool stuff coming in this month of December. We're going to go ahead and knock out a lot of stuff this month before we jump into 2014. We're also going to be redesigning our website to make it better for you to look at all of the videos, all of the lessons that are within a category and or a playlist. And so, but anyway, all right, y'all have a rocking weekend. Stay safe. Do not text and drive. All right, Wayne Barron, darkeffects.net.